For his contemporaries, he was the greatest authority in poetry, morals, religion, and philosophy. For descendants, the founder of the ancient and European literature. But disputes about whether the legendary ancient Greek poet Homer existed at all do not cease until now. There is no authentic data about the great Homer's life. His 8 biographies, made by Herodotus, Plutarch, and other ancient authors, are inconsistent and in many respects improbable. The poet's ancestors are said to be mythological characters, singers Orpheus and Musaeus. There is a confusion prevailing his fatherhood. Some people consider Apollo as his father, while still others say it is the river god Meletus, and his mother is considered to be a muse of poetry, Calliope. 7 cities, wrangling, claim to be Homer's fatherland, an ancient author asserted. Not only the birthplace, but also the lifetime of the legendary poet is not established precisely, but the majority of modern scientists believe that he lived in the 8th century BC. It is considered that Homer was the Odoi, the wandering singer and keeper of the ancient legends. Playing the 4-string lyre, he sang for people about gods and heroes. Homer didn't know how to read and write, but remembered tens of thousands of poetic lines by heart and could use a set of traditional poetic methods, which were not used in day-to-day speech. With the use of this professional luggage, Homer created 2 great ancient Greek poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey. Contemporaries believe that his songs were inspired by the muse of epic poetry, Calliope. Homer's poems are written in the hexameter, a melodic and solemn meter which ancient Greeks considered as a language of gods. Subject basis of the Iliad and the Odyssey is a reflection of the incidents associated with the Trojan War of the 12th century BC up to the time of Homer. The greatest innovation of Homer is the principle of synecdoche, a part instead of the whole. The Iliad describes not all 10 years of the Trojan War, but only 51 days, and in the Odyssey, not a 10-year way home of the main character, but only 9 days. Homer is not a name, but a nickname which means, in various dialects, a blind man, a hostage, or a prophet. Traditionally, we imagine this poet to be a gray-haired blind old man. But analyzing the richness of visual metaphors in the Iliad and the Odyssey, it is difficult to imagine that a blind man can notice how, as black beans or pulse come pattering down onto a threshing floor from the broad winnowing shovel. Indeed, the poems are literally overfilled with color. Zeus, dark-browed, Athena, light-eyed, King Menelaus, light-haired. Homer expresses about 90% of information with the help of visual metaphors, which is typical of a man who is not at all visibly impaired. So what can one infer from this? It appears that till 4th century BC, Homer was portrayed as a sighted person. But as historian Plutarch says, once Alexander the Great, who always kept a copy of the Iliad together with a dagger under his pillow, had a dream. He dreamt that Homer showed him a place to lay a great city. Now off Egypt, about as far as a ship can sail, in a day with a good stiff breeze behind her, there is an island called Pharos. There, in 331 BC, Alexander the Great founded the city of Alexandria and built a temple of Homer. But philosophers of Alexandria believed that the deified poet shouldn't look as a mere mortal with his blindness of sightedness. To emphasize Homer's being chosen and his sightedness of blindness, the poet in the temple was depicted as blind. For a man of antiquity, Homer's poems were a symbol of Hellenic heroism, a source of wisdom and all-round knowledge of life, from military art up to practical morals. Father of tragedy, Achilles named his own dramas crumbs from Homer's great feasts, and Greek children studied to read by the Iliad and the Odyssey. But on the other hand, Plato considered that Homer depraves the youth, and critic Zoil, whose name became in designation of unreasonable knocks, was thrown down from a rock for vilification of Homer. It was during the Hellenic period that disputes on authorship of poems arose for the first time, when philologists of the Alexandria Library inferred that the Iliad and the Odyssey had been created by two different poets. In 1795, German scientist Wolff raised the Homeric question. He believed that for a person who did not know the written language, it was impossible to compose such long walks, and that various authors wrote them 4 centuries later. Other researchers persistently attributed the Iliad and the Odyssey to one author, Homer. He marked the beginning of the epic genre, the patroness of which Muse Calliope put divine inspiration into the old singer's lips. One can say that today we speak not about a poet Homer, but about a certain literary abstraction, the so-called Homeric question, which receives more and more answers every year.